I remember teaching this Balvihar class to about 8-year-olds, and I introduced them to the law of karma, which is basically that actions have consequences. And the whole principle of what goes around comes around, which, you know, we're fairly familiar with the law of karma. And so while explaining this to the 8-year-olds, I was saying that, you know, when you do something, the consequence is going to come back to you, and it's going to be the same as the feeling that you have in your heart. So when we send out love, that's what comes back. When we send out anger, that's what comes back. So we were giving a few examples, and they were digesting the concept. And then the class finished. And this one little boy, he kind of sat up on his knees. So he was a bit taller. And he looked at me with such seriousness, and he said, "Why didn't you tell us this before?" And times like this, it's hard not to laugh, actually, because it's so incredibly cute. But he was so serious. It's this feeling of, why didn't I know this before? This was an important snippet of knowledge. And actually, on the spiritual journey, we find many times people say, I wish I knew this when I was younger. I wish I had understood this, you know, so many years ago. It would have saved me so much heartache. And usually that's just part of the journey, that we learn it after we've had sufficient heartache. But this feeling of, why didn't I know this before, was the feeling I had for the first time after reading Puja Gurudev's I Love You Letters book. It's, I was about 19, 20, maybe 21. And we were doing a camp. Swamiji was doing camps for us in Australia. And the London team would also do camps. And so they became this little bit of a rivalry between who did a better camp in the youth group. So Australia would do a camp, and Swamiji would go to London and tell them how amazing the camp was. And so London would get really psyched, and they would want to do even better. And then he'd come back to Australia and say how amazing the camp in London was. So it was our turn to do the camp, and I was determined to put up a good show and outshine the other London group. And the topic was this book, I Love You Letters. And so for the first time, surprisingly, it was the first time I actually opened a book and read it in the ashram setting. So, you know, we attend the talks, and Swamiji said, read the commentary, but didn't actually read. I would just listen to the talks. And so this is the first book I read cover to cover of Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda's. It's probably one of the easiest to read, because as you can tell from the size, it's pretty small. And the title is I Love You Letters to Children. So it's a little bit simpler. Don't get fooled by that, huh? It's not so simple, just very marginally simpler. And I believe that this book is what changed me. When I came out of the ashram, I had gone into the ashram for 2 years to do the monastic training that makes us brahmacharis. And when I came out from the ashram, we all get sent back home to meet our parents because they haven't seen us, in my case, 3 years. And I remember this person asked my dad, has she changed? She went to the ashram. She did this whole training to become a renunciate. Has she changed? And I was curious what my dad's going to say. I was actually really choked by his answer. He said, she changed before. That's why we let her go. And this is the book that changed me. I actually started thinking very seriously about the kind of person I am and the kind of person I want to be after reading this book. And I think even before the camp actually happened, I had already attempted to make changes in my life. And since then, I've read this book at least every 2 years, minimum, possibly more. And every time, there's still something in it that I think, oh, I need to work on that. And oh, yes, that's the mistake I'm making. And it still holds so true. It's still, and like with all self-evolvement journeys, it's always a process, and we can always fine tune, and we can always just keep improving. So this book is very, very special to me. And so because it's had such a huge impact on me, I have actually rewritten this book in my own take after all my years of studying it. And in these classes, I hope to consolidate all that I have learned from Gurudev, but also all that I have learned from my own reflections on this topic. And so it's an exciting text to be sharing with all of you. So the book is called I Love You Letters, and what we'll do is we'll actually read the letter that Gurudev has written, and then we'll talk about it. We'll see how interactive we can make it. This is the first time we're doing this hybrid thing of online plus in person. So I'm not sure how interactive we can make it, but it's a possibility that we'll make it interactive. And I will definitely be giving homeworks for y'all to do. Okay, so page 5 is the first letter, and you can read along with the book. So online people, please tell me if you can hear this. Wait, I haven't played it yet.
May all become happy. May none fall ill. May all see auspiciousness everywhere. May none ever come to any sorrow. Narayana, 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 Namaskaram. I am now here in my simple cottage of meditation on the banks of the Bhagirathi. I am in retreat and tapas to invoke the Lord's grace on you all. The Lord alone can help you all to grow into big boys and girls, each great and noble, serving the country and its beautiful culture, Hinduism. The Uttarkarshi Valley in the Himalayas is some 3,800 feet above sea level, and so it is cold in summer and very cold and sometimes snowy in winter. Our Divine Mother Ganga constantly rushes down to serve our country and its people everywhere. She is a flow of love itself. When Bhagirathi gushes down, her ice-cold waters make an enlivening music. This is echoed by the cloud-capped majestic mountain heights all around. They stand clothed in their pine groves as if lost in prayers and deep meditation. Here I was for some years with our Gurudev, Sri Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. He taught me the Upanishads that tell us of the joyful experiences of our great Vishis who had the direct darshan of the Lord of the universe. Upanishads explain how we too can, through prayer and meditation, realize the Lord of Vrindavan in our hearts, if our hearts are sufficiently pure, entirely noble, and supremely courageous. Our Gurudev taught me also the song of the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita, which describes how we must live in the world, among others, ever serving them in all love. Gurudev was a very grave and strict teacher, and what he taught once, he will no more explain. That was his condition, and I accepted it. And if I happened to forget what had been already taught, I would have to go away. He would no more teach such a forgetful and insincere student. By the blessings of Mother Ganga and my fatherly Gurudev, I remembered everything always. Daily prayers and sincere devotion for the Lord, with an innocent, loving heart, make us achieve everything in life. To a sincere devotee, nothing is impossible. Mere devotion alone is not sufficient. Devotion to the Lord must be ever dancing in our heart, and our hands and legs must sweat in work. Our head, intellect, must think well, and thus, holding on to Him in love, let us use all the faculties and powers He has so lovingly given us. Then, no one can fail. No one will lose. None can come to sorrow. Love is the very basis of Hinduism. If you know how to love, you are a great Hindu. All great people have become great because of their love for others. They gained greatness because they learned to love. Since love is the heart of Hinduism, we as children of this mighty culture must also know what is love and learn to love all others in this wide world. The Lord is the sheer embodiment of love. If we understand what love is and teach ourselves to love all, we have served our Lord Sri Parameshwara. There is no puja greater than that, no tapas more effective. Therefore, children, love, love, love. It is not possible to discuss love, prema bhakti, all of a sudden in a simple letter. But I shall do one thing. Every fortnight, I shall write to you. Your group, Sevak, Sevika, will read out and explain to you my letter every week. All of you must remember all that was taught to you in the previous week. The Sevak, Sevika will ask you questions regarding all the previous letters as they like. You must be able to answer all those questions. Then they will tell you what I have written to them for the running fortnight. Okay? From Uttarkarshi, some 50 miles north, is the sacred place called Gangotri, the spot where King Bhagarata did his tapas. It is from Gurmukh, some 10 miles above Gangotri, that Bhagarati starts her expression as the sacred river. Beyond Gurmukh, everything is snow. The vast stretches of peaks and peaks over peaks of endless snow, Hima. And so the name of this highest mountain of the world is Himalaya, the abode of snow. In Uttarkarshi, we have the famous temple of Lord Vishwanath. Sri Gurudev was a great devotee of this Somya Kashisha, Sri Vishwanath and Mother Ganga. It is here where Parashuram, after his stupendous political and social work, retired to do tapas in his mature old age. The neighboring peaks and small villages tucked away in the valleys have the names of the famous rishis of the Upanishads. Maybe they all had at one time or another camped in these places along with their students. These great masters of perfection taught the students the way of love. And having learned to live in love, they returned to their places to serve as great Hindus. That is the secret glory of Bharat and its Hindu culture. You must also learn to love, and with pure and chaste love, we shall conquer the world and hug man everywhere in love. Swami Chinmaya Nanda, Uttarkarshi, 7th May, 1968.
Okay. So the background for that is Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda had a heart attack around this period, and the doctors had urged him to rest and recover. And so he'd gone up to Uttarkashi, as he mentioned, to rest and not be engaged in any kind of strenuous work while he was recovering from this heart attack. But as you can see from the letter, he was still keeping contact with all those people that were missing him. And so Gurudev didn't intend for this to become a book. He was just keeping in touch with people through these letters after having withdrawn from work and going up to have this retreat for himself. And then I think after a few letters were collected, devotees thought, no, this is really good, and let's compile them and make them into a book. And so he said, fine, go ahead. But the intention when he started was not to write a book. So when you usually read Gurudev, he was an author. And so he had such precise language, and it was very systematic thought, and it was, he's structured, and he would give an example. But this book, it's not quite that same, an author writing a book style, because he was just writing letters every 2 weeks. And so it's a little bit more casual. But this first letter, this introduction, doesn't actually start on the topic, but it's still very beautiful. And I always refer to Narad Bhakti Sutra, which is the text written for bhakti, love, devotion, where Naraji says you can only learn love from someone who has love. Fairly logical. We can't fight this fact. It's like you can only get money from someone who has money, right? So here too, if we want to learn about love or if we want to be able to appreciate love, we have to go to someone who has love. So from this first letter, I think we can easily see that Gurudev did have love. So many things jump out at me, but let's see what you all thought. What do you all from this first letter think? How and what does Gurudev love and where? And I mean, what we can learn, observe, be inspired by from this first letter. And of course, there's no obligation for anyone to talk. Just if you want to, you can say whatever it is that you'd like to. In person, there's not so many of us. Y'all can talk. No? No one's going to talk. Interactive is not going to work. Okay, good to know. So firstly, you can see his love for nature, the way he describes the snow-capped mountains, the trees as those standing in prayer, just the beauty that's there in the Himalayas. You can see his love for Mother Ganga. He mentions her quite a few times. And from the story of Puja Gurudev's life, we know that Gangaji was his inspiration to come down and share all his knowledge with all of us. We can see his love for his teacher, Swami Tapanji Maharaj, even though he calls his teacher grave and strict, there's still that sense of gratitude for the knowledge that he has received from his teacher. Soumya Kashi, maybe I see it because I know the story of Gurudev's life and I've been to Uttarkashi, and the Soumya Kashi temple is incredibly beautiful. Tapanji Maharaj used to visit the temple every single day. It's a temple dedicated to Lord Shiva. It's a very small temple, but it is, this just reinforces this whole concept of it doesn't have to be grand and big and elaborate. It's sometimes really just the small little things that we develop in our lives is what makes it so incredibly profound. It was very close to where Tapanji Maharaj lived. Close in the Himalayas means 20-minute walk. In the Himalayan standards, this is close. And then we see Gurudev's love for this knowledge, right? What it is to be having love and what the scriptures help us to understand. So for depth of in our thinking. And I think what really touched me when I went through this book all those years ago is it felt like, I mean, Gurudev was sitting up there in Uttarkashi, and in those days, it was really quite hard to get to Uttarkashi. Now, even now, it's an 8-hour drive from Rishikesh, so maybe 10-hour drive from Delhi. They're very curvy roads. They're not in the best, well, they paved, some places they're not. So they're slightly dangerous. If weather is bad and there's landslides and things like that, it really can be dangerous. So what I'm trying to say is Uttarkashi is not easy to get to. And Gurudev was there. And he realized that very few people were going to come up to be with him. But that sense of they may be missing me, or maybe they're not missing me, but they're missing the knowledge and the class and the regularity of satsang. And so he wrote these letters to keep people engaged in knowledge. And so his love for people, when he had just had a heart attack, he was recuperating. He didn't really need to sit and write letters, especially ones on philosophy. And he set up this whole structure. It was, today we can just send one WhatsApp on forward to hundreds and hundreds of people. But in those days, he handwrote the letter. It would get mailed to Bombay Ashram. Bombay Ashram photocopied the letter 200 times and mailed that to all the different centers in the world. Like today, it's one button. Like, look how far we've gone. But the beauty that he went through all that effort. One, he went through the effort to write the letter. Two, he made everybody else go through that effort. Mail the letter, photocopy it, send it to all those. You had to write out the addresses on each of the envelopes, go and get the stamps. It's quite a saga. But the work didn't deter him from wanting to reach the people. And so that in itself is love for the people. But they were there then. Gurudev was alive, and this book, and as he said, 1968. This letter was written in 1968. So he was reaching out to all those people in 1968. But as we read these letters, it's as though he's talking to us. And so even though he didn't know we would be here today, because really he didn't. Before he died in 93, some people asked, what will happen to Chinmaya Mission? And he said, whatever the Lord wishes. If the Lord wishes mission to continue, it will. And if he wishes it not to, it won't. So he didn't know we'd be here. 2021. But in case there were people still interested, he bound all the letters into a book and left it for us. And so this first letter is really showing us his love. And sometimes when we think of love, we think of it as such a soppy thing, right? Like a rom-com, or even that parent-child, and that closeness and the hug and the warmth. And sometimes we don't realize that something so far and something so subtle is as much a profound expression of love. Leaving something for future generations because it's valuable is an expression of love. Okay, so in studying this book, over the years, I've come across many books on the topic of love. And one of them, not that I'm particularly promoting the book, but the format was something that we find useful. So there's one author who did 10 rules on how to live life. And then, kind of like that, don't sweat the small stuff. And then they do it, or chicken soup for the soul. I think that was the really first one that went really big, right? Chicken soup for the soul. Then it was chicken soup for the soul for old people, chicken soup for the soul for young people, chicken soup for the soul for business people. And then there was something like 20 different chicken soups for the soul with the same formula. But so this author also, it was 10 rules on how to live life. If life was a game, these are the rules. I think that's what the book is called. And then his sequel is if love is a game, These are the rules. Then he had a few others as well. But this is a nice, neat structure for us to use. And so having gotten that idea from him, I very often, when I go through I love you letters, I make it into the rules. If love was a game, these are the rules. So before we go into the rules of what Gurudev says, yeah, and what a lot of the great masters says, we're going to take out phones. And I know I don't do this often, but it's worthwhile. So firstly, take out your phone and put it on airplane mode, so you are not distracted by it. Don't look at anything else. Go straight to airplane mode and then go to notes. And your title is, If Love Was a Game, These Are the Rules. And I'm going to give you all a few moments to please write down your rules. So if you are online and if you are listening to the recording, please don't just wait for me to start talking again. Please actually do write it down. It makes a huge difference when you write it down. So see how many rules you can come up with. This dude who wrote the book, he had 10 rules. Every book had 10 rules. See if you can come up with 10 rules for love. What you think, you're not making it up randomly, like, always face east when you want to tell someone you love them. No, actually what you think. Actually what you think is a guideline. Like if you had to actually guide somebody you loved and cared for, like, listen, this is how to love. What would be, or if you want to tell yourself, in case you're going to go into a time capsule and you're going to lose your memory and then you're going to receive this note from yourself, like in this wisdom that you want to share with yourself. How do you love? What would be your rule or guidance to yourself and other people on how to love? You don't have to come up with 10, but try. Okay. Do y'all have at least 3 things down? Yes, everyone has at least 3 things down. If you have already read the book, I Love You Letters, please do not answer this question. Anybody wants to share 1 or 2 of their rules? It's not that private, guys. See the good in everyone. Look for good. Yes, see the good that's there. Very nice. Anyone else wants to share anything?
Can I say, Swaminiji, we will think of that person all the time, even if we are awake at night for some time. That person will come in our thoughts all of a sudden.
Diagnosis. Do you love this person? You will think of them all the time.
All the time, like you're chanting, like you're chanting for the Lord inside.
Very good. Yes, when we love someone, we do think of them often. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, I have few. First one is listen, respect, share doing something together.
Yes.
Have a secret, have fun, honesty, loyalty, and always be with each other in your bad times.
Beautiful. Very, very nice. Okay.
Yes. May I?
Sure.
So having no expectations from anyone and loving without any reciprocations. Accepting other people's weaknesses and still loving them, and no judgments regarding other persons as well as one's own behavior.
Beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to get you to do one more quick thing. I want you to go through the list that you have in front of you, and you can add if you've heard something you like from what people have shared. How much of that do you do? And Most of you will say somewhat. Then put a percentage. I do this 5% of the time, I do this 60% of the time, I do this. Very nice. Done? Finished. How many of you can say y'all are amazing at doing all the things you thought were important to do? Isn't that interesting? Or somewhat, maybe we somewhat amazing. Okay, so the first letter wasn't really getting into the knowledge. First letter was just warming up to get us feeling for Gurudev, actually speaking. So now we'll start the actual text. So we on letter 2.
I love you, chapter 2. Where is education for an idler? Where is wealth for the uneducated? Where are friends for the impoverished? Where is happiness for one who has no friends?
So
Beloved-
every chapter he gives a subhashitaha, the Sanskrit word for proverb. These beginning bits are proverbs. And I'm not going to talk about the proverbs, but of course, when you read them, you can reflect on them in your own time.
Children, hara, 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 namaskaram. In my last letter, I told you that love is the very heart of Hinduism. Though we all know what love is, we are shamefully ignorant of the nature of love. Love, no doubt, is the only solution for man's problem of existence. At present, there are very many unconscious misunderstandings in our vague concept of love. We usually demand that we must be loved by others, rather than wanting to love others. We want our elder brothers and sisters to love us, but we don't want to learn to love them. We generally wait for others to love us. And if we don't get their love, we are unhappy, sad, and feel rejected, unwanted. We never think of going out into the world and giving our love to others. Have you tried this? Have you tried to give love to your friends, relatives, and parents? Never. Of that, I am sure. Great people alone know how to give love. And in fact, therefore, they are accepted as great. Others love us. It is not by chance that they come to love us. It is not accidental. If we know how to love, we will be loved by others. This is a law of the universe. Don't you ever try to fall into others' love. But as my children, all of you must learn to walk out yourself to love others. It is active loving when we give love. Generally, we are passive. We cry to receive love. To love others is an art, and we must know its theory and practice, its methods and techniques, in order to master the art of giving love. In music or painting, in engineering or medicine, we must learn the theory and also for a long time practice them in order to master any one of them. So too is the great art of giving love to others. Since we have misunderstood that being loved is love, we always try to be good, cheerful, and smart, to dress up well and to keep beautiful so that others may love us. In the world, this anxiety to be loved by others makes men run to gain power, wealth, status, position, to undertake daring adventures, and even to perpetrate inhuman cruelties. They believe that these may bring to them love from others. In love, the problem is not whom to love, but it is of how to love. Love is an ability, a capacity in our minds, which is to be systematically cultivated. Once the faculty of love has developed, thereafter, we have the total freedom to love, and any situation is a fertile field for the cultivation of our love.
Okay. So we live in a different world. 2021 is very, very different to 1968. This knowledge wouldn't have been so easily and abundantly available in 1968, right? You had to go to a library, you had to borrow the book, it had to be in stock, it had to be in print. All those challenges were there. Today, a lot of what's just been said, we can Google, and there is countless YouTube people talking on self-help and relationships, and so many people of spiritual backgrounds and life coaches. And the other day I was looking, and there's 16 and 15-year-old high school girls who give their gyan to the world on YouTube while being dropped to school by their mom in the car. They happily making their YouTube clip that has to be uploaded, telling the fellow 16-year-old girls that you have to believe in yourself. And I thought this is just so cool. To believe that I can change is probably the foundation of any kind of transformation in our lives. And so, more than a statement of fact, I pose it to you as a question. Do you believe you can change? And how much can you change? There are many of us who feel, this is me. Take it or leave it. There's many of us that will say, yes, I can change, but I'm only human. I'm going to still make mistakes. I'm still going to get angry. I'm still going to get whatever it is that I think. Yeah. So I'll ask you again. Do you believe you can change? And how much can you change? But maybe that's the second question. Maybe that's not even the first question. First question is, do you want to change? Please don't answer in a hurry. Please really think about it. I'm not asking you these questions as yes, no answers, as in terms of this is right and this is wrong. Right? So for the purpose of this book, we're putting right and wrong aside. It's there. We're not letting right and wrong interfere with what we're thinking and how we're going to understand all of this. If you want to change, what do you want to change? And why? So again, I'm going to ask you to put this in the notes section of your phone. I think these are two deep and profound questions for you to sit and answer here, but please do tonight, later on, as homework. And in fact, this week is Navratri. It's a very beautiful week to do some kind of tapas. And these kind of introspection questions is beautiful tapas. Tapas is not just fasting food or some kind of physical austerity. It's mental austerity. So my question to you is, do you want to change? If yes, what do you want to change and why? The why is equally important. You don't want to change? Great. Yeah, if you don't want to change, then you're good. All's well in the world. Or maybe not, but why is equally as important as what, huh? Okay, also, you've probably already know the answer. Do you think you can? And how much can you? So I think this was the first thing that really significantly impacted me. The para that starts, to love others is an art, and we must know its theory and practice, its methods and techniques, in order to master the art of giving love. So, never mind love. Let's start with something a little bit more simple. How many of you think you can sing? Well, let's do it the other way. How many of you, if I asked you to sing right now, would say, I can't sing? 90% of the room. Amazing. How many of you sing happy birthday to you for your friends? That's singing, guys. Okay, so we'll all sing happy birthday in the party for our friend, in tune, out of tune, on top of our voice, quietly to ourselves. But we'll sing it out aloud because it's a party. You want them to feel happy. We're singing for them. Do you think you can improve your singing? How many say yes? How? Most of you said yes. Well done. There's a lot of people who would have said no. They think no. I can't sing and I just can't sing. That's it. There's nothing more to it. So if you do think you can improve your singing, how? Practice, just practice. Happy birthday to you. Just practice all day long. Right, learning. Going to a teacher. So I can go to a teacher. They can teach me how to sing better. And then I'll practice. And then I'll be better at singing. Everyone saying yes to me? Huh? Maybe I'll be better at singing. Wow. Not necessarily I'll be better at singing. Why won't I be better at singing? I went to a good teacher. I learned properly from them. I applied what I learned in practice. Why aren't I better? Interesting. Just, I'm not meant to sing. My karma. My voice is not a good voice. Even if the voice is not a good voice, I can still sing better. In fact, I know people who are classically trained and I don't think their voices are good, but they are pitch perfect on the dot and admired for their technical talent. Actually, not got to do with the voice. Maybe you won't like me singing, but am I better? Technically better. You still don't like me. Thanks, huh? It's people like you that make the rest of us scared to try. Maybe that's why you're scared to try. Okay. I can get better. Maybe 2% better, 3% better. I can get 80% better. It's phenomenal. Even something like singing, so many people think they've got no control over. Either you're born with it or you don't have it. There's many people who think that about singing, but it's not true. Absolutely everyone on this planet can learn. Absolutely everyone on the planet has the ability to be able to improve in singing. Why? It's a skill. Learn it, you can get better at it. Okay, let's say something like, this is true for me. I'm terrible at accounts. I remember when I first got to Hong Kong and I had to balance the petty cash, and I was telling my sister, who's an accountant, never balances. And then I just said it in passing and I kept talking about, you know, the weather and this thing and that thing. We spoke for about a whole 20 minutes and I was about to hang up the phone and she said to me, but Supriya, it really should balance. It was in her head the whole time. It's not balanced, it's not balanced. Why isn't it balanced? It needs to balance. So now if I'm one of those people, and for me, it may be I'm not good at accounts. Maybe for you, it's I'm not good at speaking. Maybe it's I'm not good at putting together an outfit. Maybe it's I'm not good at cooking. Can we get better? Yes? Everyone says yes? At absolutely anything, can we get better? Because?
Only if we want to.
Yeah, we assuming, yeah, I want to. For now, we assuming I want to. Why can I get better? Because I gain knowledge and I experiment and practice and I'll get better. Love is the same. The quality of our relationships, it's the same thing. I can learn how to be better. And I can make my relationships better. But maybe, and I know for me, when I read this first book, it had never occurred to me that how to love is something I should have learned. Isn't it just something that we all should know? But we don't. Don't we already all love? Yes. Don't already all of us have people that love us? Yes. Are we content with it? No. We want it to be better? Yes. Who's going to make it better? We want it to be better, right? No matter how much love we already have, all of us want it to be better. even a relationship which is good. We're getting along. We want it to be better. We do. And then those relationships which are lukewarm, we definitely want those to be better. And those relationships which are bad, which are causing us heartache and agony and stress and misery and guilt and regret and tension, we definitely want that to be better. Who's going to make it better? That person? No. God? That would be nice. So we learn new prayer, new mantra, go to new temple. Make it better, God. Fix it. Like, we have servants in the house. Fix it. We really order him around like a servant. Yeah, like that's gonna work. Who's gonna make it better? Well, we can. Whether we do or not is different. So the first thing is to even know that this is something I can learn. And actually, absolutely everything is something I can learn. I mean, this might be mind-blowing for you. It might not be mind-blowing for you. But when I first realized it, it was. I can learn patience. I can learn compassion. I can learn humor. I can learn kindness. I can learn bravery. I can learn to be more tolerant. Absolutely, all these qualities that we have within us, we can learn, we can develop, we can improve. And so love is not one thing. Love is quite a few things put together. Like if you go through your list of the 10 rules for love, it's not one thing. It's an umbrella. Yeah. And so when Gurudev says love is an art, here I would also like to make a distinction where the scriptures talk about love as being our nature. So we are divine beings and we are loving beings and joyous beings and peaceful beings. This is what the scriptures say we are. Do we feel like loving beings? Maybe. Do we feel like peaceful beings? Joyful beings? So what happened to this nature? This is supposed to be who I am. What happened to it? We forgot. So when Gurudev says love is an art, it becomes this exercise. It becomes this thing I have to learn how to do. And then as he mentioned, practice, practice, practice. I have to keep at it. I have to work at it. I have to develop it. I have to cultivate it and excel in it and mature in it and grow in it and refine it. And while I'm doing all of that, this beautiful thing happens. It becomes easy. I'm sure you've had other things where you've learned. Maybe something like rollerblading or ice skating or driving a car. And the first time you did it, it's so scary and it's so... I think the first time I drove, every muscle was stiff in my body. I think I needed to breathe after that. And that was one of those dual control cars at age 16, because that's what we learned to drive at 16 in Australia. And by the time I left Australia, of course, I haven't driven in a long time. You're driving with two fingers, music blasting, talking away to the person next to you. There was no mobile phones on those days, thank God. But you started off holding the steering wheel so tight that the blood is not flowing in your fingers at that point in time. So you learn it, and it's really hard. It's really nerve-wracking. It's really scary. And then it becomes easy. Becomes fun. And then I start to see how love is my nature. I have to do love is my nature. And then it becomes love is my nature. I'm not doing it. I'm just being it. And so this book is the how to learn and the how to practice. And it's really, really, really incredibly beautiful. Okay, we'll pause here for today. I'll just reiterate that you have homework for you to benefit. Please do homework. I will not be checking if you do your homework or not, but remember, it's an art. You have to learn it. You have to practice. Homework will help you practice. Any questions? Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkhabhag bhave, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.